And Miller said she owed me a wedding, but on the day we were finally holding it, she left in her wedding dress to find her brother, who was threatening suicide. The MC stared, wide-eyed, and the guests were stunned. I swallowed the pain and took the microphone, trying to maintain some dignity. "Today is the ceremony for my divorce from and Miller," I announced. "I hope you all eat and drink well." Later, she stood in front of my car in that same wedding dress, crying and begging for a fresh start. I held my new love's hand and said politely, "There's no need for that. You don't want to upset your brother, the one who's waiting for you to warm his bed." The orchestral music swelled as the grand doors to the banquet hall swung open, and Miller appeared, walking towards me step by step in a pure white wedding dress. My eyes started to burn. It had been such a long, difficult road to get here, and as she finally stood before me, I felt a sense of finality, like everything was finally settling into place. But the roses in her hands were trembling, and as she stepped onto the stage, I caught a glimpse of sneakers under the hem of her gown. Did she have something else planned? Where could she possibly be going in a wedding dress? The closer she came, the more clearly I could see the anxiety etched on her face. And at a moment like this, the only person who could make her that worried was her dear brother. The blood drained from my face. I managed a weak smile, but my eyes were begging her. "Just this once, don't leave me." The MC on stage chuckled. "Look, the groom is completely captivated. That's how you know how beautiful our bride is." The guests laughed, but I noticed the panic in Anne's eyes intensifying. "Our bride and groom have come a long way to be here. It certainly hasn't been easy. So, before the vows, how about we ask the bride to share a few words?" The audience cheered in agreement, but Anne suddenly lifted her veil. "I'm sorry, Louis. Something's happened to Ethan. I have to go see him." Ethan was her adopted brother, and they had grown up together. Ever since Anne and I started dating, he had supposedly developed severe depression. To avoid triggering an episode, we never even had a wedding in the first place. It took a full year of marriage for her to remember she owed me one. But now, in front of everyone, she was abandoning me again. It was awful. It felt like I would never be more important than Ethan. With that, she dropped her bouquet, and in front of hundreds of staring guests, she hiked up her voluminous skirt and ran back down the aisle, a frantic white butterfly fluttering away. The air in the room went still. The MC just stared, completely lost. After a moment of stunned silence, the guests erupted into a roar of chatter. I saw Mr. and Mrs. Miller get to their feet, anxiously trying to calm their relatives while shooting apologetic looks my way. I don't have any family, so at least I didn't have to worry about that. I pushed down the wave of pain and was suddenly overcome with exhaustion. Forget it. Let all be over. The thought grew stronger until I ripped the gardenia, a symbol of eternal devotion, from my lapel. I grabbed the microphone from the MC and tapped it twice, the piercing feedback silencing the room. "She wanted to go to Ethan, didn't she? Fine." I was done trying to stop her. I cleared my throat and even managed what I hoped was a respectable smile. "Good afternoon, everyone. Today is the ceremony for my divorce from and Miller. Thank you all for coming, and please enjoy the food and drinks." The murmuring from the crowd grew louder. I tightened my grip on the microphone, as you all just saw, and ran out. That was all part of the show, something we designed. I mean, who would actually run out of their own wedding? My words weren't very convincing, but her actions certainly were. A few people in the crowd seemed to buy it. "I guess that makes sense. Who just runs out of a wedding?" one person muttered. "I heard some young people are having divorce parties now. It's the new trend," another added. "Well, this is a first for me." Mr. and Mrs. Miller were frozen in place. Mrs. Miller started to explain to those around her, but her husband pulled her back into her seat. I could just barely hear him hiss, "Look at what your precious daughter has done. Just stop talking. Haven't we been embarrassed enough?" I handed the microphone back to the MC and walked off the stage, feeling his pitying gaze on my back. Once the reception was over and the last of the guests had left, I took the Millers back to my new house. It was a house I'd paid for in full, a house and had never once spent the night in during our entire year of marriage. If she ever left so much as a jacket here, Ethan would be at the door the very next day, a scowl on his face. "Louis," he'd say, "I'm here to get my sister's things." He would snatch them away and never forget to add a little warning. "You may have the title, but my sister loves me most. Just you wait. Sooner or later, all of this will be mine." Looking at the few things she'd left behind now, the rage I used to feel from his taunts had completely vanished. I quickly gathered her belongings. They all fit into a single cardboard box. I handed it to her parents. "Mr. and Mrs. Miller, please take this back to her. And please, tell her to meet me at the courthouse tomorrow at 9 a.m. so we can sign the divorce papers. Louis, you've put up with so much this past year." "We are so sorry," Mr. Miller said. We never imagined our own daughter. How could she? They both struggled to find the words. Their hair was streaked with gray. It was clear these years hadn't been easy on them, either. After they left, I sat alone in the empty house. Memories I wasn't prepared for came flooding back, pulling me into a summer filled with the buzz of cicadas. The campus trees were a deep green, swaying in a gentle breeze. Hey, you're Lewis Clark, right? You were the one who just gave that speech on stage. A vibrant young woman in a red dress stood before me, her face glowing with a youthful confidence. She was radiant and dazzling, the kind of person everyone on campus noticed. I was just out of college myself, with a little bit of success under my belt, but my mind was only on making money. I didn't know the first thing about women. That was me, I said. If there's nothing else, I have to go. I ignored the surprised look on her face and started to walk past her. Then I heard her shout from behind me, "Hey, Lewis Clark, you're the first guy to ever ignore me. I'm gonna make you mine." I didn't look back. I had no idea then that she would force her way into my life and become someone I couldn't imagine living without. But just as I finally let my guard down and fell completely for her, Ethan showed up. The very first time I met Ethan, my gut screamed that he was trouble. He was dressed in all black, decked out in jewelry like some kind of punk, but he had this androgynous face that, with the slightest hint of red around the eyes, made you instinctively want to comfort him. My instincts as a man told me immediately that the way he looked at and wasn't right. But he was her brother, and with a face like that, it wasn't like he couldn't get a girlfriend, so I felt it wasn't my place to say anything, and doted on him, tending to his every mood as if he were a small child. During the period he came to visit her at college, he tagged along on every single one of her dates. He would glare at me like he wanted to kill me, then turn to his sister with a look of pure innocence. Every time we went out, he had to compete with me over everything. If I took him shopping and said a black dress looked good, he would insist the white one was better. When I went to pay, he would always rush to swipe his card first. "I'll pay for my sister's things," he'd declare. At first, I just chalked it up to a brother being possessive. They were siblings. What else could it be? But I was completely wrong. He was staying in Anne's apartment. The day after he arrived, I went over and found him climbing out of Anne's bed in his pajamas. He was a grown man. How could he have no sense of boundaries? When I confronted her about it, and just laughed it off, "What's the big deal? He's my brother. There was a thunderstorm last night, and he got scared." A 6-foot-tall man, afraid of thunder? You're not seriously jealous of this, are you? When I didn't answer, Anne's expression soured. Ethan, still in his pajamas, smirked lazily and draped his arm over Anne's shoulder with an air of entitlement. He raised an eyebrow at me, a smug look on his androgynous face. "Mr. Clark, you're so narrow-minded. If you marry my sister, will there even be room for me in the house?" As it turned out, after I married his sister, I was the one who had no place in our home. She didn't live with me. Instead, she spent every day and night with her sick brother. It was a joke. The next day, I was waiting at the courthouse entrance at 9 a.m. sharp. I waited for 2 hours. Not a soul appeared. Finally, I had no choice but to call her. "And is something going on today?" Before I could finish, Ethan's voice, seething with hatred, erupted from the phone. "Lewis, this is all your fault. What did you tell my parents? They're furious with us, and even got hit, and it's all because of you. Why do you have to ruin our family? Don't you realize you're the one who doesn't belong?" I used to get upset hearing things like that, sad that her brother wouldn't accept me. That was before I found out they weren't even blood-related, and that this grown man would come out of the shower with just a towel on and wait for his sister to dry his back for him. The moment I found out, I confronted them both, and just looked at me with disgust. "Lewis, you have a dirty mind." My pained, hysterical breakdown was dismissed as jealousy of their close sibling bond. As I clutched my chest in fury, Ethan just laughed. "Mr. Clark, why are you more emotional than my sister?" Now, faced with his accusations, I felt no anger or sadness at all. Those two deserved every bit of scolding they got. I shot back without holding anything back. "Your parents are angry because she abandoned her own wedding for you. They're angry because you, her brother, are in love with her. They're angry because you're a spineless coward who only knows how to stir up trouble instead of facing things head-on. In short, your sister is in this mess because of you." Ethan was in love with his sister. If he had ever had the guts to compete with me for her fairly, I might have respected him. But all he did was hide behind their sham of a sibling relationship, doing things that made all three of us sick, all while being too cowardly to admit the truth to the Millers. He was a hypocrite with no backbone. And another thing, I added, put her on the phone. "I'm divorcing her today. This is what you've always wanted, right? If you miss this chance, you might not get another one to get rid of me so easily." The line went dead. I knew they would come. Whatever Ethan wanted, all he had to do was squeeze out a few tears, clutch his chest, and mutter something about not wanting to live anymore, and it would give him anything. I knew this better than anyone. It's exactly what happened the day we got our marriage license. The day we left the courthouse, Ethan came running up with red-rimmed eyes and shoved me aside. He grabbed his hands as if I wasn't even there, his voice choked with panic. "Sister, are you going to abandon me too? Mom and Dad don't like me. You're all I have." I frowned and couldn't stop myself from speaking up. "You're a grown man. You've graduated from college. Why are you sitting at home all day whining about who likes you?" And shot me a death glare before turning back to Ethan with a smile. She didn't just tolerate his behavior. She seemed to revel in his adoration. "Don't listen to him. I'll always love you, Ethan," she cooed, pulling him into a hug like he was a little boy and planting a customary kiss on his forehead. "Can I come stay at your place then?" he asked. "I fought with Mom and Dad. They don't want me around." He looked down, the corners of his eyes tinged with red. A grown man putting on a pitiful, helpless act. Sure enough, that very night, just as I stepped out of the shower, there was a knock on our bedroom door. I opened it. Ethan's eyes were like daggers. He looked me up and down, and only after seeing I was fully dressed did he roll his eyes in annoyance. "Ethan." The moment he heard In's voice, his expression shifted back to one of innocent vulnerability. "Sis, imskarat, iwimparat. Can you sleep with me tonight?" It was our wedding night, and he was asking to sleep with my wife. It was an insane request, but and unbelievably, said yes. She turned to me without a hint of apology. "Don't read too much into it. I only see him as a brother. He has depression, and it's been getting worse lately. If I don't stay with him, I'm afraid he'll do something to himself." He had depression? The guy who looked at me like he wanted to murder me the second her back was turned actually wanted to die? It was just a manipulation tactic. I was furious. "I think he's faking it," I said bluntly. "He's doing this on our wedding night on purpose. How can you?" En's expression turned to ice. She cut me off sharply. "Louis, do you have any compassion at all? He's sick. He's a patient. You're a grown man. Can't you stop being so petty?" It was always the same story. Whether we were dating or married, whenever Ethan was involved, he was the sick one, which meant he could do no wrong. And I wasn't sick, which meant I was the one who had to be sacrificed. I told her to go, out of pure anger. And the next morning, she took Ethan and moved back into his apartment. And so began our separation, right after our wedding day. Looking back on it is painful. How on earth did I put up with that for a whole year? I must have the patience of a saint. I waited another hour. By then it was noon, and the courthouse staff were leaving for lunch. I sent a text telling them to meet me at 2 p.m. and found a small diner to grab a bite. I hadn't been in a place like that in a long time. As an orphan, I've always felt a desperate need for financial security. I started hustling my freshman year of college, right when social media was taking off. I found a few pretty underclassmen, bought a used camera, and started churning out videos, quickly capitalizing on the traffic boom. Later, that grew into a small studio where I signed a few amateur influencers. The studio kept expanding until it became a proper company. By all accounts, I was a success story. But my personal life was a total disaster. I suddenly remembered how, and used to fight with me about my job. She was convinced that the female influencers I signed were all trying to get with me, when in reality, we were all just there to make money. Those women streamed for 9 hours a day and had to give me a huge cut of their earnings. I was lucky they weren't throwing things at me, let alone trying to seduce me. On top of that, when we were together, she would drop by the office unannounced. If any woman on live stream got even remotely close to me, she would barge in and give them a warning. The female employees at my company learned to avoid me like the plague. It was almost funny to think about now. I was first attracted to her because she was so vibrant and bold. She said she would win me over, and then proceeded to follow me around for 3 months straight. When you're in love, you see everything through rose-colored glasses. No matter what she did, I saw it as charming and genuine. Not anymore. Now, I just think that she and her brother are both incredibly immature. I ordered a lunch special and was halfway through it when a call came from Anne's number. I answered, and Ethan's impatient voice barked through the speaker. "Louis, it was just a wedding. I don't know what you're making such a big deal about. You want a divorce? Fine. We're here. Get over here now." He hung up before I could say a word. I imagined and standing next to him, her tone just as arrogant as always, so sure that I could never leave her. But in this world, no one is truly indispensable. I walked out of the diner. The sky was clear and bright. A perfect day for a divorce. "You got here fast. You must really want this divorce," and said, her voice sharp and sarcastic. "Louis, I'm telling you now, once this is done, I'm never coming back, no matter how much you beg." I couldn't help but fire back. "Aren't you the one who always said, 'I don't understand you like your brother does'? That I'm not as kind or considerate as him. You should be thrilled. Now no one will get in the way of you and your brother." After all, you two have to keep each other company at night. Your bond is so special. A few people walking by stared at us, their eyes wide, and hissed at me to shut up. When I turned and walked toward the counter, she panicked for a second and reached out to stop me, but Ethan grabbed her hand midair. "Sister, he's so suspicious," Ethan whispered. "Humiliating us in public like this. He doesn't trust you at all. He's just trying to threaten us into submission." I stood on the steps, watching them, for the first time, and wasn't hanging on her precious brother's every word. Instead, she was looking at me, her lips parted as if she wanted to say something, but the words never came. I just felt tired of it all. "Shall we?" I asked. Seeing that I wasn't going to stop her, she stomped her foot in frustration, angrily shouldering past me as she went inside. "Fine, let's get divorced," she yelled. "Just don't you come to regret this." Ethan followed her, shooting me a triumphant smirk as he passed. I wouldn't have any regrets. My resolve today was built on a mountain of disappointment from every time she had chosen him over me. If anyone was going to have regrets, it would be her. Walking out of the courthouse with the divorce decree in my hand, I felt like a new man. That heavy burden I could never quite hold on to, but never quite let go of, was finally gone. I felt lighter than I had in years. "Lewis." I turned around and was standing there calling my name. This time I just gave her a calm wave. She started to walk towards me, but Ethan grabbed her arm and started whispering something to her. By the time she looked back, I was already pulling away in my Rover. I went back to the office and threw myself completely into my work, signing a new group of content creators. My previous assistant had gone on maternity leave, so I interviewed for a replacement. Her name was Chloe Davis. She was a graduate from a top university, had experience at a major tech firm, and was incredibly competent. She had a calm, steady presence that immediately struck me as reliable. I had to attend a networking event and needed a plus one, so I had her come along on the company's dime, of course. Dressed in an evening gown, Chloe possessed a quiet, intellectual beauty that was a world away from Min's loud, flashy radiance. As she took my arm, she whispered, "Excuse me, sir." I glanced over and saw the tips of her ears were bright red, which for some reason put me in an excellent mood. At the dinner table, our client, Mark Peterson, kept glancing between us. The moment Chloe excused herself, he leaned in. "So, are you really done with her for good?" I nodded. He slapped his thigh in relief. "Thank God. I'm telling you, Lewis, that ex of yours was way too much drama. This one," he said, nodding in Chloe's direction. "She seems quiet." "Nice. Get out of here, Mark," I laughed. "She's my assistant." "An assistant is the perfect person to make a move on," he insisted. "You're not getting any younger, and she wasted enough of your time. What's the plan? Are you going to stay single forever out of loyalty to her?" He had a point. I'd dated Anne for 4 years and been married for 5 years. I'd gone from 25 to 30. It did feel late. What if I make a move as her boss, and she says no? I asked. Mark just scoffed. "She says no? Then you pursue her, just like you did with the last one. Just please, for the love of God, don't have another divorce ceremony. My kid's about to have his first birthday, and you still haven't managed to have a proper wedding reception." Hearing my old friend lay it out like that made my face flush. My drama with and had been a source of entertainment for our friends for years. I was glad it was finally over. For the first time, I felt truly lucky to be free. I just never expected her to be so relentless that she would even come after Chloe. Chloe returned to the table, and just as she sat down and appeared out of nowhere, holding a glass of wine. I hadn't even seen her in the room. From the look on her face, she was about to throw it on Chloe, so I instinctively pulled Chloe into my arms. The full glass of red wine soaked my suit jacket. I looked up and froze for a second, then her shock turned to rage. "Lewis, who is she? Tell me who she is. We had one fight, and you're already cheating on me. How could you do this to me?" Ethan came running over from across the room and, out of habit, reached for his sister's hand. But this time, she shook him off. Seeing that Chloe was all right, I finally looked up to face them. "Miss Miller, we're divorced," I said calmly. "Who she is none of your business." I glanced at Ethan, who was lurking nearby with a dark expression, and added with a smile, "Besides, isn't your brother right there? Why are you so concerned with my life?" A flicker of a smile crossed Anne's face. She actually thought I was still jealous over her. "Lewis, if you don't want me spending so much time with Ethan, I'll stop. Just don't be angry anymore. And stop seeing these other women." Her voice was laced with resentment by the end, but I didn't believe a word of it. She'd made that same promise 100 times, and every single time, she had chosen Ethan without a moment's hesitation. I suddenly felt a mischievous urge. I raised an eyebrow at Ethan. "You're going to abandon your brother?" "I don't think so. Aren't you afraid he'll try to kill himself again? What about when it thunders? He'll need you there to comfort him." From across the table, Mark snorted with laughter. Afraid of thunder, my ass. Mark was roaring with laughter, and the Miller siblings looked mortified. After all, the things they did were deeply embarrassing when exposed to the light of day. And saw the smirk on my face and stomped her foot. If you don't like it, I'll stop. Ethan's a grown man. He doesn't need me. Just stop fighting with me. So she did know he was an adult who didn't need her. I thought she'd never figure that out. Miss Miller, Chloe suddenly spoke up, her voice calm but firm. Mr. Clark said, this has nothing to do with you. Please don't disturb our dinner any longer. If this continues, it will be unpleasant for everyone. I was surprised Chloe had spoken up for me, her tone perfectly measured and fearless. What business is it of yours? What's between him and me? Who are you two? It is her business. I cut in. Chloe is the woman I intend to pursue. So yes, it has everything to do with her. Anne's composure finally broke. She lunged forward to grab me, but Ethan caught her and pulled her into a hug. Sis, stop it, he pleaded. He doesn't love you. Look, he's already found someone new. He doesn't love you. Let's just go. No, he loves me. And suddenly shrieked, shoving Ethan so hard he fell to the floor. This is all your fault. He's only angry because you made me leave the wedding. Get out of here. Lewis doesn't want to see you. My fault. Ethan shot back, getting to his feet. Sister, you chose to come to me that day. Between him and me, it's obvious who you care about more. The situation had suddenly devolved into a fight between the two of them. Now, this was a new one. All my begging when we were married couldn't get her to say a single harsh word to Ethan, but now that we were divorced, they were at each other's throats. A waiter had come over to try and calm them down. Seeing that dinner was officially ruined, I exchanged a look with Mark, and we quietly escorted Chloe out of the restaurant while the two of them were still screaming at each other. The moment we got in the car, I started apologizing. I had no idea she'd be there. I'm so sorry. I never meant for that to happen. And that stuff I said about pursuing you, please don't take it seriously. But I want to take it seriously, she said softly. Her words stunned me into silence. What did she mean by that? You should think about this. I've been married before. I'm 30. I'm a lot older than you. I suddenly felt like things were spinning out of my control. I'd taken off my wine-soaked jacket, but I still felt flushed and hot. Mr. Clark, can I call you Lewis? She asked. I overheard you and Mr. Peterson talking. If it's okay, would you be willing to let me pursue you? Oh man, the wine from dinner must be hitting me harder than I thought. I had to be hearing things. What? But you saw my ex-wife. She's a lot. She'll probably keep harassing me. And I'm divorced. You've only known me for 2 months. 5 years and 72 days, she corrected me. Mr. Clark, I've known who you are for 5 years and 72 days. That couldn't be right. That was exactly how long I had known Anne. She saw the confusion on my face and smiled. The day you came back to our university to give a speech, there was a girl in a white dress sitting in the front row. That was me. I actually ran after you that day. I was going to work up the courage to ask for your autograph, but then I saw you on the quad with Anne Miller. I've known you ever since. When you two started dating, I gave up on the idea. I went to work for another company after graduation. It was only after I heard you two had divorced that I applied for the job here. Mr. Clark, my interest in you is very premeditated. It wasn't summer, but I could have sworn I heard cicadas buzzing. It turned out that for all those years I was being cast aside, someone else had been quietly and steadfastly choosing me, watching me from afar. My heart pounded in my chest. It felt like the beginning of a second summer. From that day forward, I officially began to court Chloe. We kept things professional at the office, but we made the most of our time after work, going on dates all over the city. She was like a young girl in some ways, so easy to please. It was so different from being with Anne. I had to shower her with jewelry and designer bags, and I always had to get a gift for Ethan, too, just to be rewarded with a single dinner out. Chloe didn't care about any of that. She loved pushing a cart through the grocery store with me, picking out ingredients to cook a meal for me at my place. Suddenly, that big, empty house was filled with the warmth of a home. Watching her chop vegetables, I realized that a good life wasn't about things, it was about doing, and it was warm and wonderful. The doorbell rang unexpectedly. It had started to rain outside, and I wasn't expecting anyone. You keep cooking, I'll get it, I said, putting down the potato I was washing and drying my hands on my way to the door. Standing on my doorstep was Anne, looking completely soaked and miserable. She looked like she'd run all the way here in the downpour. Her clothes were dripping onto my doormat. She gave me a wounded look and lunged forward, trying to throw her arms around me. I quickly backed away. I had just started something wonderful with a new woman, and I wasn't about to let and ruin it. She missed me and stumbled, collapsing in a heap on the floor. Lewis, I'm in this state, and you're still going to be mad at me. I frowned, annoyed that the welcome mat Chloe and I had picked out together was now completely drenched. We're not together anymore. Why would I be mad at you? If you have nothing else to say, You should leave. Louis, she cried, suddenly grabbing my pant leg. The cold dampness from her clothes made me flinch. I haven't called you, and you haven't called me in 2 months. Are you really okay with us being over? I was just confused. She used to be unable to go a single day without her brother. So why did she suddenly have time for me? Miss Miller. Chloe's voice came from behind me. She was standing there, looking at the scene with a bewildered expression. I instantly shook her hand off my leg and rushed to explain. She just showed up. I didn't invite her. I had finally found a woman I genuinely cared for. Why didn't I have to show up and try to ruin it? You again, and spat, scrambling up from the floor and starting toward Chloe. I stepped between them, my voice turning cold. That's enough. Louis, are you talking to me? She asked, incredulous. She's my girlfriend, I stated flatly. Of course she's here. Stop causing trouble and call Ethan to come get you. Her eyes widened in disbelief. I'm your wife. Ex-wife. I corrected her. We're divorced. The papers are signed. Any other questions? My tone must have been colder than she expected, because all the fight seemed to drain out of her. She just stood there by the door, looking lost. The silence was tense. It was Chloe who broke it. You should come in, she said to Anne. The rain is too heavy. You can't leave in this weather. I didn't want to engage with Anne at all. Chloe found her a towel and a change of clothes. When she came out of the bathroom and saw me frowning, she came over and hugged me, a small smile on her face. What is it? It's not safe for her to leave in this storm. Let her stay for a little while. I looked down at the woman in my arms. Why wasn't she the least bit jealous? I was being extra careful to draw a hard line with, and because I didn't want to upset her, and here she was, kindly inviting my ex-wife to stay. Didn't she feel even a little possessive of me? The confusion must have been written all over my face, because she started laughing into my chest. Are you upset because I'm not jealous? She giggled. You're so adorable. I know you only love me now, so why would I be angry at someone else? Caught. I felt a little embarrassed and gently pushed her away. So, should we get back to cooking? As she pulled me toward the kitchen, the bathroom door swung open and emerged in the dry clothes, her face deathly pale. She was staring transfixed at her joined hands. I called Ethan, I said, breaking the silence. He's on his way. You can wait in the living room. I ignored the pain in her eyes. It had nothing to do with me anymore. Back in the kitchen, Chloe decided to make another potato dish, but my slicing skills were so bad that she banished me from the prep area. I laughed and went to set the table. I saw Anne in the living room, staring intently at us. I really didn't want to set a place for her, but it felt rude not to. Chloe, however, glanced at the table and saw only 2 place settings, then shot me a look with a furrowed brow. Louis, she said pointedly. I immediately grabbed another set of silverware and a plate and added it to the table. Only then did she look down, hiding a smile. Being with Chloe gave me a sense of belonging I'd never had before. When I was with Anne, I would cook dinner every night and have it all on the table before she would even deign to sit down. The first words out of her mouth would inevitably be about Ethan. She never once cooked a meal for me, never set foot in the kitchen. We never had these quiet, normal moments together, and seemed to realize this too. When she sat down at the table, she still looked dazed. Have some, Chloe offered. Louis and I aren't the best cooks, but hopefully it's edible. I shot Chloe a look of mock offense. Nonsense. Our cooking is fantastic. She gave me a playful glare, telling me to behave. Just then, the doorbell rang. That must be Ethan, I said. The chair scraped against the floor as and shot up from the table. She practically ran to the door as if she were escaping. By the time I got there, Ethan was already pulling her into the elevator down the hall. So rude. Both of them. About a week later, the diamond ring I'd ordered arrived. I was nervous about the proposal and couldn't come up with a good plan. I spent hours brainstorming with my friends, but they just made fun of me for being a coward. Of course I was a coward. What if I messed it up and lost the best woman I'd ever met? Then one day, during a meeting, I realized I'd forgotten a file and asked Chloe to grab it from a drawer on my desk. 2 minutes after she left, it hit me. The ring was in that drawer. I rushed to my office, and there she was, standing frozen, holding the open ring box in her hand. I had planned to do it the next day. I didn't even have flowers. I shot a panicked look at a few employees behind me who were already in on the plan. They caught on instantly, starting up some music and cheering. They were the best. I rushed over, took the ring box from her hand, and dropped to one knee. Chloe Davis, I said, my voice shaking a little, will you marry me? My breath was short, and my heart was hammering against my ribs. For years, she had quietly walked 99 steps toward me. It was my turn to take the final one. I saw the disbelief and pure joy in her eyes as they filled with tears. She nodded. I slid the ring onto her finger and immediately posted the news online. Congratulations from my friends started pouring in. They all said I'd better hurry up and have the wedding before my ex showed up to cause more trouble. I agreed completely. After talking it over with Chloe, we flew out that same day to meet her parents in the next state. Her parents knew I was divorced and older than Chloe, so they had been a bit hesitant. Our phone calls had always been polite but distant, but when they met me in person, they warmed up immediately. As I walked past the kitchen, I overheard her mom telling her, "You little liar. There's no way he's 30. He could pass for 27. Mom, I wasn't lying." Chloe protested. I breathed a silent sigh of relief. Thank goodness I kept up with my gym routine. The wedding planning went smoothly. We planned every single detail together, from the venue and the dress down to the party favors. On the morning of the wedding, my groomsmen and I headed to the hotel to pick up the bride. Halfway there, a woman in a wedding dress suddenly stepped out in front of our car. The driver slammed on the brakes, and we all lurched forward. When I got out of the car, I saw that it was Lewis. "Lewis, I was wrong," she cried, running towards me. "I'll never choose Ethan again. Please, let's get married again, okay?" A headache instantly bloomed behind my eyes. She hadn't shown her face in weeks, and she chose today, of all days, to pull this. "Stop it, Ann. I'm on my way to pick up my bride." She started toward me, but my groomsmen stepped in front of her. "Your bride?" she shrieked. "You're marrying someone else?" "Lewis, I promise I'll change. I'll cook with you. I'll never yell at you again. I'm wearing a wedding dress, too. Marry me, please. Marry me today." Even my friends looked disgusted. "Miss Miller, that's enough," one of them said. "Who do you think you are? Get out of here and stop ruining our friend's wedding day." "You're divorced," another added. "It's over. Just go," and seemed to be completely unhinged, screaming, "He can only marry me. He promised he would only love me for his whole life." Mark held her back and yelled over his shoulder, "Lewis, just go. Get in the car. Don't be late. I've got this." Seeing no other option, I got back in the car and we drove off. At the hotel, I finally saw Chloe waiting for me. I swept her into my arms and we rushed to the ceremony. After we exchanged our vows, she changed into her reception dress and we began making our way from table to table, toasting our guests. And that's when Ann burst into the reception hall, still in her wedding dress. Her eyes scanned the room, and when they landed on us, she started marching over. I immediately moved Chloe behind me. "Lewis, are you really marrying her?" she demanded. A wave of whispers went through the room. My face hardened. I couldn't understand how she always managed to humiliate me so effortlessly. She didn't love me, and I had let her go. Why was she still clinging to this? I was about to say something nasty, but I felt a gentle tug on my arm. I looked back at Chloe, and she gave me a look that said, "Don't be too harsh." "Lewis, can't we please start over?" she begged, tears streaming down her face. "I regret everything. I really do. I don't love Ethan. He locked me up. That's why I couldn't come to you sooner. Can we please just start over?" I took Chloe's hand in mine and smiled at her. Then I turned back to and said politely, "No, thank you. I'm already married." Just then, Ethan appeared behind her. "Miss Miller," I added, "you should probably go take care of your brother. You wouldn't want him to try and kill himself again, would you?" "Sister," Ethan cried out and whirled around and let out a scream of pure disgust. Eventually, security escorted both of them out. I heard later that she and Ethan got stuck in a toxic on-again, off-again cycle that their parents were powerless to stop. When Ethan would get angry, he'd leave her and try to date other people, but she would sabotage all of his attempts. They were trapped in a loop together, but that wasn't my problem anymore. I looked at Chloe's growing baby bump and felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. The peaceful, stable life I had always wanted had finally found me. End story. When I was 8 years old, my family adopted a little brother. My parents named him Ethan, hoping he would always be there to support me. He was a good kid, always trailing after me. But one day, I found some of my underwear, which I thought I had lost, hidden under his pillow. That was the first time I ever felt afraid of him. It's why I chose a college so far from home. In my junior year, I met a successful older student named Lewis Clark. All my life, people had told me I was beautiful, and I was very confident. To get revenge on Lewis for brushing me off when we first met, I decided I would be the one to pursue him. My original plan was to win him over and then dump him. But somewhere along the way, I can't deny it, I started to fall for him. He'd never been in a relationship before, but he treated me so well. While we were dating, he gave me everything I wanted without a single complaint: designer bags, expensive jewelry, romantic candlelit dinners, and surprise getaways. Back then, I truly wanted to marry him. But then Ethan came to stay with me, and, as my brother, he would occasionally make little complaints about Lewis. I didn't think much of it first, but he kept doing it, and eventually, his words started to get to me. And around that same time, Lewis started fighting with me over Ethan. I didn't understand it. Ethan was my brother. What was so wrong with me buying him clothes or comforting him until he fell asleep, or just spending time with him. Didn't Lewis have any siblings of his own? It felt so unreasonable. It was just like Ethan said, maybe deep down Lewis didn't really trust me or love me that much if he could suspect me so easily. The conflicts between us grew, but we got married anyway. Right before the wedding, Ethan's illness got much worse. He was constantly threatening to kill himself. To avoid upsetting him, we didn't have a ceremony on my wedding night. I was so afraid he would do something that I wanted to stay with him. I just didn't get it. Ethan was sick. Why did Lewis always have to pick a fight with a sick person? Lewis and I grew colder and more distant. I want to make things right, which is why I suggested we finally have our wedding. But right before the ceremony, I got a text from Ethan. It said, "Sister, if you don't come this time, I'm really going to kill myself." It was just a wedding. How could that be more important than someone's life? So I went, and in the moment I walked away, my Lewis gave up on me for good. Later, when he was getting married again, I went to him in my own wedding dress, genuinely wanting to start over. I had decided that this time, I wouldn't believe a word Ethan said. But it was too late. He didn't need me anymore. He took his new love's hand, smiled, and told me there was no need. And in that moment, I finally truly understood that some things, once they're broken, can never be put back together again.